What's up? I'm back. In this segment, we talk about the Twilight Zone. Twilight Zone was a very interesting show. It first came out in 1959. It was later redone in the 80s. And both versions, in my opinion, I'm a big fan of, partly because of what it represents. The Twilight Zone, in a lot of ways, I know this is a science fiction channel, but it's because I started in the metaphysical genre. A lot of people will come to this channel kind of want both. Shoot, some people probably just want all metaphysics, but sorry, I can't help you there. But the Twilight Zone is interesting in a sense because it's kind of a combination of the two of them. And sometimes I regret saying things like this because I don't want people to think that you can just decode movies all day and that's real spirituality, because it's not. The movies are supposed to kind of assist you, but definitely not supposed to be the major thing that you're doing to spiritually evolve, or it shouldn't be the major tool that you have to spiritually evolve. That's crazy. But now that I said that, the Twilight Zone is an interesting concept because if you look at it, what is the concept of Twilight Zone? Usually it always begins where somebody kind of either wakes up, or it usually wakes up, or they're in a situation where the world seems the same, right? So when you first meet them, it seems the same. But then it's just one thing out of the ordinary that changes it. And when it changes it out of the ordinary, then in a sense, they start to realize, wait a minute, something's going on, right? And in a lot of ways, the Twilight Zone is kind of like what we call the fourth dimension, or the astral plane. And it's kind of funny because even in the introduction to the show, it talks about it's in the fifth dimension, right? And it talks about, in a sense where imagination and science meet. And in a lot of ways, it's sort of true, in a sense. Basically, when you look at the physical world, it's a copy of the astral world. So everything that happens physically happens astrally first. So this is why even a psychic, when somebody says someone's a psychic, all the psychic is, usually, of course, they don't do it intentionally. They're born with this gift. They just, through the astral plane, see a few hours ahead of time, maybe a few years ahead of time. It could be days, years, weeks. It could be lifetimes, thousands of years. Like the book of Revelation, the Bible, was just, them seeing the astral plane thousands of years ahead, if that makes sense. So everything that happens astral happens physically. I'm sorry. Everything that happens physically has happened astrally, but everything that happens astrally has not happened physically. That's the key. So the astral plane is much bigger. So when you first become aware of it, it seems the same, but then there's a little things off. Like, for instance, let's look at two events. Like, an event could be the same, right? Like, the same event could manifest differently in astral and physical. I can make this video right now. There's no one in the house, right? This is in the physical. And you don't see anyone in the house. There's no one in the house, right? Except my dogs, right? And my fish. Plants. But talk about humans. There's no humans in the house, right? And that's consciously. That's in the physical. Now, the same event took place in astral. But in the astral, there was maybe my inner guides, right? Maybe my high guardian angel. Maybe my ancestors. Maybe even other spirits, right? So when that event took place in the physical, the physical audience sees one person, me. So this is why shamans say they live between both worlds, because they consciously see both worlds. So when you see both worlds, who knows? You might see someone in the background. Who knows, right? That's the difference. So the astral, or what they're calling a Twilight Zone, the show, at first seems the same, but there's more possibilities. And at first, it's really the center of everything you do spiritually. But the thing is that sometimes people tend to only want to be in astral. They don't realize, no, the astral and the physical worlds kind of coexist together, and they need each other in that sense. The highest possibilities in the astral manifest in the physical, right? So this is why if you get amongst a certain type of teachers, they want you to just get into heavy science, heavy psychology, because the physical manifestation is the most powerful astral events. The difference. So sometimes, when you see people channeling, they get all this information, they start talking stuff that never happened. It's because when you look at physical history, the physical history was the events that had the most power. So when you are, accessing info and you accessing stuff that never happened in the physical, the ability to be able to decipher between the astral and physical, between what events happen in astral but what events will happen in physical, is key. And for the Twilight Zone to kind of go into this a little bit, back in the 50s, it's unique. I mean, put it this, it's so unique that you don't even see people now doing that. Like, honestly, like, even now, that's a ground setting. Like, what shows doing that, really? Most science fiction shows, if you really think of it, are actually taking place because it's funny, right? Here's a good example. If you look up what science fiction is, it usually talks about topics that go outside our time and space at times. Like there's some definitions say that. So in theory, if you have, I don't know, it could be any show, right? And the show is, you know, a great show and it's talk about aliens or talk about whatever supernatural things. A lot of times those things are actually things that's taking place in the astral plane. But in the physical, only the strongest things manifest. So that's why sometimes when people believe in aliens, they say, yeah, those are astral entities. But then when somebody says, show and prove me that in the physical, they can't. So what the person who's balanced between both worlds learns to do is, if I'm in a matrix conversation, if I'm dealing with people who are more grounded, why mention aliens? Aliens has nothing to do with that. That's a possibility that probably can't manifest by itself. And it's a possibility that at the same time, if you access that without going through the physical groundwork, because that's what it really is. The physical is supposed to prep you in the end to get to go in, to have control in the astral, right? So if an alien can't come in the physical, then why even, you know what I mean? Like, why make such a big deal about it, to be honest? And that's somebody who's living between both. That's the difference. So when you see the shaman is able to do that, and in the beginning, what the person learns to do is, your mind starts to comprehend the astral when it's asleep, when the conscious brain is shut down, right? So that's why people dream. That's why they dream, because your conscious mind stops. So what the person who's like a yogi learns to do is meditate, and through meditation they can access some of these things. That's why they can see visions, they can access knowledge. That's why, right? But the person who goes beyond that, what even a yogi does, learns to then blend both of them together in a conscious life. So when they consciously are up, they can access both. And when they access both, they appear to be others. This is the beginning of being enlightened. It's not enlightened yet. That's the difference. A lot of people, New Agers and stuff like that, they overrate the subconscious, right? The subconscious is only powerful, or the subconscious realm, what you call an astral, is really powerful because it can get you to the mental plane, to be able to access it directly, which is the superconscious. That's the difference. When you access that fully, then you are, whatever, the Buddha, or whatever you want to call it, the enlightened person. So the Twilight Zone's a really good show because in the beginning, one of the reasons why it's so hard for people to even access it a little bit, because you in your third dimensional world, you don't even know your own third dimensional world. If you want to know that, ask 100 people who runs the world, or how the world's run. Forget who runs the world. How the world is run. They don't know. They give you different answers, and every answer is wrong, because there's things in their physical environment they don't know. They actually think the sky is blue. They actually think the sunlight. They don't know that it takes 8 minutes for light to travel between the sun to here. So you're kind of 8 minutes in the past. So when we look up at the stars, some of those stars are millions of light years away. Little things like this is the physical world. So the way things work, if you don't have access, if you're not able to access your own world, you can't access the other world fully. That's the difference. So that's why sometimes the real teachers always try to get their people to understand science. You don't have to understand science like a scientist, but at least have a grounded understanding of it, just so that your conscious mind heals and becomes balanced, if that makes any sense. It's like someone who's a psychic and knows everyone can't see that ghost. So why tell, if the ghost is not affecting everyone in the room, why tell people, you see that ghost over there? They're gonna think you're crazy. That comes from imbalancement or lack of harmony between the person's conscious mind, physical reality, and the person's subconscious mind, astral. So, if you've never seen Twilight Zone before, definitely check it out. Great stuff. Till next time. Peace.